The great hall of the Galactic Council was filled with angry voices. 47 different species sat in their floating chairs, all looking down at two humans who sat quietly at a small table in the center. The humans wore simple blue uniforms and seemed calm, even though everyone else in the room was upset. Commander Dae-Ho Kim looked around the room with steady eyes. He had gray hair and many scars on his face from old battles. Next to him sat Counselor Nari Park, a younger woman with dark hair who was writing notes on a small device. High Arbiter Velthak stood up from his tall chair. He looked like a giant insect with 4 arms and green skin that shined under the lights. His voice was loud and harsh when he spoke. "Humans of Earth," Velthak said, "you have been called here today to answer for your crimes against galactic peace." Dae-Ho did not move. Nari kept writing her notes. "For too long, your species has shown excessive aggression," Velthak continued. "You fight too much. You refuse to share your weapons with the Council. You take over star systems that do not belong to you." A blue creature with tentacles for arms waved them in the air. This was Trade Minister Quolum from the water world of Aquatica. "They scare other species with their big ships and their soldiers," Quolum said in a watery voice. "Peaceful beings live in fear because of human military shows." More voices joined in. A red reptile with sharp teeth, General Morden, stood up and pointed at the humans. 3 times alien fleets have attacked human worlds. 3 times the humans destroyed those fleets completely. This is not normal. This is dangerous. When the Zephyrians attacked human colonies, humans did not just defend themselves, said a bird-like creature with yellow feathers. They chased the Zephyrian fleet all the way back to their homeworld and destroyed their entire war machine. When space pirates took over the Meridian system, humans did not negotiate, added another alien. They sent 1 ship and killed every pirate in 3 days. When the Void Stalkers threatened the trade routes, humans hunted them down like animals, said Quolum. They did not stop until every Stalker ship was destroyed. Velthak nodded his insect head. "You see? Humans are too violent. They solve every problem with force. They refuse to follow proper galactic law." Dae-Ho finally spoke. His voice was quiet but clear. "May I ask a question?" The room became silent. Velthak looked surprised. "What?" "In each case you mentioned who attacked first." Velthak's green eyes narrowed. "That is not the point." "I think it is the point," Dae-Ho said calmly. "The Zephyrians attacked our colony on New Sol. They killed 30,000 civilians, including children. We stopped them from doing it again. The pirates in Meridian were selling alien children as slaves," Nari added, looking up from her notes. "We freed over 2,000 kids from different species." "The Void Stalkers were not just threatening trade routes," Dae-Ho continued. "They were eating the crews of the ships they captured. We made them stop." General Morden slammed his scaly fist on his chair. "This is exactly the problem. You think you can police the galaxy? You think you know better than the Council." "We think children should not be eaten or sold as slaves," Nari said simply. "We think families should not be murdered in their homes. If that makes us aggressive, then we are aggressive." The room erupted in angry voices again. Some aliens agreed with the humans, but most seemed upset by their words. Velthak raised all 4 of his arms for silence. "Enough. The humans have proven our point. They think they are above galactic law. They think they can decide who lives and who dies." A small, furry creature spoke up. "But Arbiter, humans have also saved many worlds. When the Red Plague hit our system, human doctors came and healed our people. When our sun started to die, human engineers built machines to keep us alive." "That does not matter," Velthak said quickly. "Good deeds do not excuse bad behavior." Another alien, this one tall and thin with silver skin, stood up. "Humans have protected our trade ships for 50 years. Before they came, we lost half our cargo to pirates every year." "Silence," Velthak shouted. "We are not here to praise humans. We are here to solve the human problem." Dae-Ho and Nari looked at each other. Something passed between them like a silent conversation. Velthak pulled out a long document and began to read. "The Galactic Council has decided that humanity poses a threat to galactic peace and stability. Therefore, the following terms are offered to the human species." The room became very quiet. "First, all human military forces will be placed under Council control. Human ships, weapons, and soldiers will serve the Council, not Earth. Second, humans will surrender all advanced military technology to the Council for proper distribution among member species. Third, All human colonies outside the Sol system will be evacuated. Humans will be relocated to a designated area where they can be properly supervised. Fourth, no human will hold a position of authority over non-human beings. Fifth, humans will submit to regular inspections to ensure compliance with these terms. Velthak looked down at the two humans. You have 30 days to accept these generous terms. If you refuse, the Council will consider humanity to be in rebellion against galactic authority. The hall was silent. Every eye was on Deho and Nari. Deho stood up slowly. He was not a tall man, but something about him made him seem larger. May I respond? You may, Velthak said. The human government has asked me to thank the Council for their generous offer. Deho said politely. However, we must respectfully decline. A wave of surprised voices filled the hall. Some aliens looked shocked, others looked angry. Furthermore, Deho continued, I am here to inform the Council that humanity is withdrawing from the Galactic Council. Effective immediately. The noise in the hall became louder. Velthak stood up, his insect eyes wide. What did you say? We are leaving, Nari said, simply putting away her notes. We resign our membership in the Council. You cannot just leave. General Morden roared. There are laws. There are procedures. Deho smiled for the first time since entering the hall. Actually, Article 12 of the Galactic Charter clearly states that any member species may withdraw from the Council at any time for any reason. We are exercising that right, but where will you go? Asked the small furry creature. Somewhere we can live in peace, Nari said. Somewhere we will not be treated like criminals for defending ourselves and protecting the innocent. This is madness, Velthak shouted. You cannot survive without the Council. You need us. Deho and Nari walked toward the exit. At the door, Deho turned back to face the Council. With respect, Arbiter, he said quietly. I think you have that backwards. Then the two humans left the hall, leaving behind 47 species of aliens who had no idea what they had just done. In the silence that followed, the small furry creature whispered, Did we just make a terrible mistake? But High Arbiter Velthak was already planning. Humans would be back within a week begging to return. They had to be. The galaxy was too big and dangerous for one small species to survive alone. He was very, very wrong. News traveled fast across the galaxy. Within hours, every alien government knew that humans had left the Galactic Council. At first, most aliens laughed. They thought humans were just angry and would come back soon. They were wrong. Admiral Sujin Lee stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching her fleet prepare to leave Altarian space. She was a tall woman with short black hair and calm eyes that missed nothing. Around her, dozens of human ships powered up their engines. Admiral, said her second officer, the Altarians are asking us to stay. They say they will pay us to keep protecting their trade routes. Sujin shook her head. Orders are orders. All human forces are to return to Sol space immediately. On the planet below, millions of Altarians watched the human fleet lift off. For 20 years, those ships had kept their world safe from pirates and raiders. Now they were leaving, and the Altarians did not know what to do. Dr. Woo-Seok Choi was packing his laboratory on the research station orbiting Centauri Prime. He had spent 10 years studying alien diseases and finding cures. His work had saved millions of lives across dozens of species. Doctor, said his assistant, a young human woman named Ji Yeon, the station commander wants to talk to you. The station commander was a tall alien with blue skin and 3 eyes. He looked worried when he entered the lab. Dr. Choi, the commander said, surely you are not really leaving? Your research is too important. Woo-Seok continued packing his equipment. I am sorry, Commander. All human personnel are being recalled. But what about the Meridian fever? Only you know how to treat it. If it spreads again, I have left all my research notes in the computer. Woo-Seok said sadly. Your doctors will have to figure it out. The commander's 3 eyes went wide with fear. Our doctors do not understand your methods. The notes are written in human medical terms we cannot translate properly. Woo-Seok stopped packing and looked at the alien. I am truly sorry. I wanted to stay and teach your people. But my government has ordered all humans to leave Council space. Across the galaxy, the same scene played out on hundreds of worlds. Human doctors, engineers, teachers, and scientists packed their belongings and headed home. They left behind alien friends who begged them to stay. On the mining world of Kepler 442, Human engineers had built machines that kept the planet's atmosphere stable. Without those machines, the air would become poison in a few months. The head engineer, Taemin Song, spent his last week trying to teach alien workers how to maintain the equipment. This lever controls the oxygen flow, Taemin explained to a group of worried alien miners. If the red light comes on, you must adjust it immediately. But how much do we adjust it? Asked one of the aliens, a rock-like creature with crystal eyes. It depends on the atmospheric readings, Taemin said. You need to check the computer first, then calculate the proper mixture based on current conditions. The aliens looked confused. They had never needed to know these things before. The humans had always taken care of it. What if we make a mistake? Asked another alien. Taemin looked sad. Then people will die. I'm sorry I cannot stay to help you. Ambassador Jin Woo Han was having the hardest job of all. He had to visit the governments of species that had been human allies and explain why humans were leaving. On the peaceful world of Zalani Prime, President Hyunjae Kang of the Zalani Republic was almost crying. Jinwoo, President Kang said, "My people love humans. You have been our friends for 60 years. You helped us rebuild after the war. You taught us about democracy and freedom." Jinwoo felt terrible. The Zalani looked almost human except for their green skin and large eyes. They were kind, peaceful people who had never hurt anyone. I know, Jinwoo said quietly. This is not what we wanted. But the Council has made it clear that humans are not welcome as equals. We will not stay where we are treated like criminals. But where will you go? Space is dangerous. There are pirates, raiders, hostile aliens. How will you survive alone? We will find a way, Jinwoo said. We always have. President Kang stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Zalani children were playing in a park that humans had helped design. Schools that humans had built dotted the landscape. Hospitals using human medical technology saved lives every day. The Council is making a terrible mistake, President Kang said. They are letting fear and jealousy destroy the best thing that ever happened to this galaxy. I agree, Jinwoo said. But the decision is made. President Kang turned back to him. What if we left the Council too? What if the Zalani Republic came with you? Jinwoo looked surprised. That would be very dangerous for your people. More dangerous than staying in a galaxy where wise beings are punished for being wise. Meanwhile, in space above various worlds, human military fleets were departing. These were not small groups of ships. Humans had built the largest, most advanced navy in the galaxy. As the fleets lifted off, many aliens realized for the first time how much protection they were losing. Captain Boram Yoon commanded the evacuation of the Outer Rim territories. This was where humans had built their newest colonies, on worlds that other species thought were too dangerous to settle. Captain, said her communications officer, we are getting desperate messages from the Helix station. They say raiders are already gathering in the asteroid fields. Boram looked at the tactical display. Helix station was a major trading post that served 20 different species. Human patrols had kept it safe for years. Any human civilians still on the station? No, ma'am. Last transport left this morning. Then we continue to Sol Space. It is not our responsibility anymore. But Boram felt sick as she gave the order. She knew that good people would die because humans were no longer there to protect them. The withdrawals continued for weeks. Every day, more human ships, personnel, and equipment left Council space. And every day, the aliens began to understand what they had lost. On New Tokyo, a human-built hospital that treated patients from 6 different species went dark. The alien doctors did not know how to operate the advanced medical equipment. On Harmony Station, the food distribution network collapsed when the human logistics coordinators left. The aliens had never learned how to manage the complex system that fed billions of people across multiple star systems. On the agricultural world of New Terra, the weather control satellites began to malfunction. Human technicians had maintained them for decades. Without proper maintenance, the planet's climate started to become unstable. In the farthest reaches of space, pirates and raiders watched the human fleets disappear. They smiled with sharp teeth and began planning attacks on now undefended worlds. The Void Stalkers, creatures that lived in the dark between stars and fed on intelligent life, stirred from their hiding places. For years, human patrols had kept them away from populated systems. Now those patrols were gone, but the humans kept leaving. They loaded their families, their equipment, their knowledge, and their protection onto thousands of ships and headed back toward Earth. Some aliens tried to follow them. Some begged to come along, but the humans politely refused. They had been told they were not wanted. They were going to find somewhere they could live in peace. High Arbiter Velthak watched reports of the human departure from his office on Nexus Prime. He was not worried. Humans would be back within a month, begging to return on the Council's terms. "Sir," said his assistant, "the outer colonies are reporting increased pirate activity." "Temporary problem," Velthak said. "We will handle it." "Sir, 3 hospitals have had to close because they cannot operate human medical equipment." "We will learn," Velthak said. "Sir, the food distribution system is failing. Some worlds may face famine." Velthak finally looked up from his reports. "These are temporary problems. The galaxy survived for millions of years before humans arrived. We will survive after they leave." But deep down he was starting to worry. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy and they were all bad. Maybe humans leaving would cause more problems than he had expected. Still, it was too late to change course now. The Council had spoken. Humans were gone. Now they would see if the galaxy could survive without them. 2 months after the humans left, the galaxy was in trouble. Captain Bo-Ram Yoon sat in her quarters aboard the human ship New Sol, reading reports that made her feel sick. Her job was to coordinate the final evacuations, but she kept getting desperate messages from the worlds they had left behind. "Captain," said her assistant, "Lieutenant Minho Park, another emergency transmission from Kepler 442. Bo-Ram sighed. "What is it this time?" "The atmospheric processors are failing. The alien engineers tried to fix them, but they made it worse. The air is becoming toxic." Bo-Ram closed her eyes. Kepler 442 had 6 million people living on it. "Any other options for them?" "The nearest world that can take refugees is 3 months away by their fastest ships." "They do not have 3 months," Bo-Ram said quietly. Similar disasters were happening across the galaxy. On New Geneva Station, the artificial gravity had failed because alien technicians did not understand how to maintain the human-built systems. The station was now drifting helplessly in space. Engineer Taemin Song, now back on Earth, received constant messages from aliens begging for help. He sat in his apartment in Seoul staring at his computer screen. "Please." "Engineer Song," said the message from a crystal-like alien on Kepler 442. "Our children are getting sick from the bad air. We do not understand your machines. Can you at least tell us what we are doing wrong?" Taemin wanted to help, but Earth's government had been clear. No human was allowed to return to Council space. Helping would be seen as going against the evacuation order. He typed back, "I am sorry. I wish I could help, but I am forbidden to return. Try checking the pressure valve on the 3rd processor. It might be stuck." It was not much help, and Taemin knew it. The aliens needed months of training to understand the systems, not simple instructions. Meanwhile, a medical crisis was spreading across the outer rim. The Corellian fever had returned, and without human doctors, it was killing thousands. Dr. Ki-ho Baek, now working at a hospital in Busan, received a desperate video call from Dr. Velnara, an alien doctor he had worked with for years. "Ki-ho," Dr. Velnara said, her blue face twisted with worry. "The fever has reached Altarian space. We tried to follow your treatment notes, but we are losing patients. What are we doing wrong?" Dr. Baek looked at his old friend and felt his heart break. "Velnara, the treatment requires precise measurements based on the patient's body chemistry. Each species needs a different dose. We know that, but how do we calculate the doses? Your notes mention standard metabolic rates, but we do not know what those are for each species. You need to run blood tests first, then adjust the medication based on the results," Dr. Baek explained. "But which blood tests? There are hundreds of possible tests." Dr. Baek realized the problem. Human doctors had years of training and experience. They knew instinctively which tests to run and how to interpret the results. The alien doctors were trying to follow instructions for procedures they did not truly understand. "Velnara," he said sadly, "you need someone there to teach you. Reading notes is not enough. Will you come back?" "Please, I cannot. Earth has forbidden it." Dr. Velnara's face crumpled. "Then our people will die." The call ended and Dr. Beck sat in his office for a long time, staring at the blank screen. The economic situation was getting worse too. Trade routes that had been safe for decades were now overrun with pirates. The Galactic Trade Commission reported that shipping losses had increased by 400%, since the humans left. Emergency Coordinator Silvara, an avian species with silver feathers, called an emergency meeting on Nexus Prime. The situation is becoming critical, she announced to the assembled alien officials. 17 worlds are reporting food shortages. 9 star systems have declared states of emergency due to infrastructure failures. Pirate attacks have crippled trade in the Outer Rim. High Arbiter Velthak looked uncomfortable. These are temporary problems. The galaxy will adapt. Adapt to what? Asked Counselor Melthera, a moderate voice who had opposed the human ultimatum from the beginning. Adapt to dying from diseases we cannot cure? Adapt to living without power or clean water? Adapt to having our children kidnapped by pirates? The humans made us dependent on them, General Morden said angrily. This proves they were trying to control us. No, said a small voice from the back of the room. It was Delegate Zintara from the Zilani Republic. This proves they were trying to help us. President Hyunjae Kang had sent Zintara to represent the Zilani at council meetings. The Zilani were considering leaving the council themselves, and these meetings were helping them decide. The humans never forced their help on us, Zintara continued. They offered it freely. When we had problems, they solved them. When we were in danger, they protected us. When we were sick, they healed us. They asked for nothing in return except friendship. They asked for respect, Counselor Melthera added. They asked to be treated as equals, not as threats. And now they are gone, Zintara said. And we are learning what life is like without friends. General Morden slammed his scaly fist on the table. Friends do not abandon their allies. Allies do not try to enslave their friends, Zintara shot back. That is what the council tried to do. You tried to make humans into servants. The room erupted in angry voices. Some aliens agreed with Zintara. Others supported Mordun, but everyone was scared. The reports coming in from across the galaxy were getting worse every day. On the agricultural world of Haven Prime, the food distribution network had completely collapsed. Crops were rotting in the fields because no one knew how to operate the human-built harvesting and transport systems. The planet that had fed 12 other worlds was now facing starvation. On Harmony Station, a major transportation hub, the traffic control system had failed. 3 ships had crashed trying to dock, and the station had to close its ports. This cut off trade routes that supplied hundreds of worlds. In the Vega system, the early warning satellites that detected incoming asteroids had gone offline. The aliens could see the satellites, but they could not access the computer systems. One small asteroid had already hit an uninhabited moon, creating a crater visible from space. The military situation was even worse. The Void Stalkers had emerged from the dark spaces between stars and were attacking isolated colonies. These creatures were nightmare fuel, black ships that appeared without warning and harvested entire populations for food. Fleet Commander Jackson II tried to organize a defense, but his ships were no match for the Stalkers. Human tactics and technology had kept the Stalkers away for decades. Without that protection, entire star systems were going dark. We need help, Jackson II reported to the Council. My fleet cannot handle the Stalkers alone. They are using tactics we have never seen before. What kind of tactics? Asked Velthak. They strike multiple targets at once, disappear when we respond, then hit different targets while we are out of position. It is like they know exactly how we will react. Counselor Melthara looked thoughtful. That sounds like the same tactics the humans used against the Zephyrian invasion fleet. The humans shared their tactical knowledge with the Stalkers? Morden roared. No, Melthara said quietly. The Stalkers learned by watching the humans fight, and now they are using those lessons against us. The irony was bitter. Humans had been so effective at defeating threats that their enemies had learned from them. Now those same tactics were being used against the aliens the humans used to protect. Back on Earth, human leaders watched the galactic news with sad faces. They had not wanted this to happen. They had hoped the other species would learn to take care of themselves. President Mi Young-shin called a cabinet meeting in Seoul. The reports from Council Space are getting worse, she said. Millions of innocent beings are suffering because their governments made a stupid decision. We cannot help them, said Defense Minister Chang Woo-lee. Any attempt to return to Council Space would be seen as an invasion. So we just watch them die? Asked Foreign Minister Yoon-ji Kim. What choice do we have? President Shin replied. They told us to leave. They said we were too dangerous, too aggressive. We left. Now they must live with their choice. But everyone in the room felt terrible. Humans had never wanted to abandon their friends. They had simply refused to be treated like criminals. As the weeks passed, the situation in council space continued to deteriorate. More worlds declared emergencies. More people died from diseases that humans could have cured. More colonies went dark as the Void Stalkers spread their terror. And in the Galactic Council chambers, the debates grew more desperate. Some members still insisted that humans were the problem, and the galaxy was better off without them. But others were beginning to wonder if they had made the biggest mistake in galactic history. High Arbiter Velthak sat alone in his office, reading casualty reports and trying to convince himself that he had done the right thing. But the numbers told a different story. Every day without humans meant more death, more suffering, more chaos. For the first time since the humans left, Velthak began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, he had been wrong. 4 months after the humans left, the galaxy was dying. Counselor Melthera stood in her private office looking at reports that made her sick with guilt. She was a tall, elegant being with silver skin and large, wise eyes. For years she had been one of the few voices in the council who supported human membership. Now she was watching her worst fears come true. "Ma'am," said her assistant, "the death toll from the Corellian fever has reached 2 million. Melthera closed her eyes. 2 million beings dead from a disease that humans could have cured easily. What about the evacuation from Kepler 442? Half the population made it off-world before the atmosphere became completely toxic. The other half." The assistant could not finish the sentence. 3 million more dead because alien engineers could not maintain human-built life support systems. Melthera walked to her window and looked out at Nexus Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Council. Even here, things were falling apart. The planetary defense grid had malfunctioned twice in the past month. The water purification system was running at half capacity. The orbital traffic control was so confused that 2 cargo ships had nearly collided yesterday. Humans had helped build or improve all of these systems. Without their knowledge, everything was slowly breaking down. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. Melthara turned to see the worried face of President Hyunjae Kang from the Zilani Republic. "Counselor Melthara," President Kang said, "I am calling to inform you that the Zilani Republic is formally withdrawing from the Galactic Council." Even though she had expected this, Melthara felt her heart sink. "President Kang, please reconsider. The Council needs moderate voices like yours." "The Council needs wisdom," President Kang replied. "It needs to admit when it has made terrible mistakes. Since it cannot do that, the Zilani people refuse to be part of it anymore. Where will you go?" "We are going to find the humans," President Kang said simply. "We are going to ask them to let us join their new confederation." "That could be very dangerous. Space beyond council borders is full of threats." President Kang's green-skinned face showed a sad smile. "Counselor, my people are dying here. Our hospitals cannot treat the diseases that are spreading. Our defenses cannot stop the pirates. Our infrastructure is failing. How can it be more dangerous out there than it is here?" The transmission ended, and Melthera was alone with her thoughts. She had heard rumors that other species were also considering leaving the council. The small, furry Bixnari people were talking about it. The peaceful Altarians were holding emergency votes. Even some members of Aquatiquolim's own species were questioning their loyalty to the council. Meanwhile, in his fortress-like office, High Arbiter Velthak was getting increasingly desperate reports from Fleet Commander Jackson II. "Arbiter," Jackson II said over the communication link, "the Void Stalkers have destroyed the Meridian colony. 800,000 beings are missing, presumed dead." Velthak's insect eyes narrowed. "How is that possible? Meridian had defense platforms. The platforms were human-designed. We could not operate them properly. The Stalkers found our weakness and exploited it." "What about the reserve fleet?" "Still trying to stop pirate raids in the Beta sector. We are spread too thin, Arbiter. We have too many threats and not enough ships that can fight effectively." Velthak ended the call and slammed his 4 fists on his desk. Everything was going wrong. The galaxy had faced these same threats for decades when humans were here, and there had never been problems like this. Human fleets had been like a shield protecting everyone. Now that shield was gone and the wolves were circling. But Velthak's pride would not let him admit the truth. He had built his career on opposing human influence in the galaxy. He had convinced the Council that humans were dangerous, that they needed to be controlled. To admit he was wrong now would destroy him. A soft knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in." General Morden entered, his red reptilian face showing unusual worry. "Arbiter, we need to talk. If this is about asking the humans to return, the answer is no." "Arbiter, my own people are starting to ask questions. The raids on our border worlds are getting worse. 3 of our colonies have been abandoned. We will handle it." "How?" Morden's voice rose. "Our best warships cannot defeat a single Void Stalker vessel. Our doctors cannot cure diseases that human medics treated easily. Our engineers cannot maintain the systems that keep our worlds livable. Then we will learn." "There is no time to learn," Morden roared. "Beings are dying while we try to figure out what the humans already knew." Velthak stood up, his full height making him tower over the reptilian general. "Are you suggesting we crawl back to the humans and beg them to save us?" "I am suggesting we admit we made a mistake." "Never." Morden stared at him for a long moment. "Then you are a fool, and you will be responsible for every death that follows." The general stormed out, leaving Velthak alone with his anger and his fear. On Earth, Dr. Kehoe Bayek sat in his laboratory, trying to focus on his research. But every few minutes, his computer chimed with another desperate message from alien colleagues begging for help. "Kehoe," said the latest message from Dr. Velnara, "the fever has mutated. We tried to modify your treatment, but it is not working. Please, just tell us what to do." Kehoe stared at the message for a long time. He had taken an oath as a doctor to help all beings in need. But his government had forbidden any contact with Council space. His assistant, Dr. So-Young Han, looked over his shoulder. "Sir, we could send anonymous technical data, not medical advice, just basic research that might help them figure it out. That would still be helping Council species. Earth's government was very clear about that. So we let them die?" Kehoe rubbed his tired eyes. "I do not know what else we can do." But So-Young had an idea. "What if we sent the information to human colonies outside Council space? Places where aliens might happen to find it?" It was a thin justification, but Kehoe was desperate to help. He began preparing research packets that could accidentally be intercepted by alien ships. Similar scenes were playing out across Earth and the human colonies. Engineers like Taemin Song were sending anonymous technical manuals to neutral worlds. Military advisors were posting tactical information on public networks where anyone could find it. Teachers were uploading educational materials to open databases. It was not enough to save everyone, but it might help some. Captain Boram Yoon was having the hardest job of all. Her ship was patrolling the border between human space and the rest of the galaxy. Every day, she intercepted desperate alien ships trying to reach Earth. "Captain," said her communications officer, "another refugee ship from the Altarian system. They are asking permission to enter human space." Boram looked at the tactical display. The alien ship was badly damaged and clearly overloaded with refugees. "How many aboard?" 12,000, ma'am, all civilians fleeing the pirate raids. Orders are to turn them away." "Ma'am, their life support is failing. If we send them back, they will die." Boram closed her eyes. She had joined the military to protect people, not to watch them die. "Signal Earth Command. Request permission to provide humanitarian assistance." The answer came back quickly. "Permission denied. Do not engage with Council refugees." Boram stared at the message for a long time. Then she made a decision that would probably end her career. "Communications. Signal the refugee ship. Tell them to follow us to Sanctuary Station." Sanctuary Station was a small human outpost just inside the border. It was not technically part of Earth space, so maybe there was a loophole in the orders. "Ma'am," said her first officer quietly, "Earth Command will not be happy about this." "Then they can court-martial me," Boram said. "I will not watch innocent beings die because politicians are too proud to admit they made a mistake." Back in council space, the situation continued to deteriorate. The Void Stalkers had destroyed 6 more colonies. The Corellian fever had spread to 40 star systems. Infrastructure was failing faster than aliens could repair it. In the council chambers, emergency sessions were being called almost daily. The moderate faction, led by Melthera, was growing stronger as more species realized the truth. But the Pride faction, led by Velthak and what remained of Morden's supporters, still refused to admit error. "We should ask the humans to return," Melthera said during one heated debate. "We should admit we were wrong and beg their forgiveness." "Absolutely not," Velthak replied. "That would show weakness. The humans would demand even more control than before." "What control?" asked a small delegate from the furry Bixnari people. "Humans never tried to control us. They helped us because we asked for help. They refused to share their military technology," Velthak insisted. "Because they were afraid of what we might do with it," Melthera said. "Look around you. Look at what we did when they tried to share power peacefully. We tried to enslave them." The debates went on for hours, but no decisions were made. Too many council members were still too proud to admit they had been wrong, and while they argued, more people died. Dr. Kehoe Beck received one final message from Dr. Velnara. Her blue face was gaunt with exhaustion and grief. "Kehoe," she said, "I want you to know that I do not blame you or your people for what has happened. The council made this choice. We all have to live with it, or die with it." The message ended there. Dr. Velnar had caught the fever herself and did not survive. She was one of 7 months after humans left the Galactic Council. The unthinkable happened. A formal delegation from the council arrived at Earth asking for help. President Mi-Young Shin sat in her office in Seoul, reading the message that had just arrived. Next to her stood Defense Minister Chang-Woo Lee and Foreign Minister Yoon-ji Kim. All 3 looked tired. The past months had been hard on Earth's leaders, watching the galaxy burn while being unable to help. "They want to negotiate," President Shin said quietly. "Councillor Melthera is coming personally, along with representatives from 12 species. What are they offering?" asked Chang-Woo. "Everything. Full restoration of our council membership, senior status, complete autonomy over our military territorial guarantees." President Shin set down the message. "They are desperate. Are we going to help them?" asked Yoon-ji. President Shin was quiet for a long moment. "We should, but not on their terms. If we go back now, nothing will change. In 10 years or 20, they will try this again. So what do? We make sure this never happens again." 3 days later, Commander Dae-ho Kim walked into the same council chamber where this had all started. But this time things were different. This time, he was not sitting at a small table in the center. He was standing at the speaker's podium, looking down at aliens who had once judged him. The chamber was only half full. Many species had left the council in recent months, either to find humans or simply to try surviving on their own. The Zalani Republic was gone. The Bixnari Collective had departed. Even some of Morden's own people had formed a breakaway government. High Arbiter Velthak looked older and more tired than before. His green insect skin seemed duller, and his eyes held a fear that had not been there months ago. Councillor Melthera stood up to address the chamber. "We are here today because the Galactic Council has made a terrible mistake. We drove away our greatest allies because we were afraid of their strength. Now we are paying the price for our fear and pride." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some aliens nodded in agreement, others looked angry. "The facts are simple," Melthera continued. "Since humans left council space, we have lost 47 colonies to various threats. Over 15 million beings have died from diseases we cannot cure. 63 star systems have declared states of emergency. Our infrastructure is failing. Our defenses are broken, and our people are suffering." "Those are temporary problems," General Morden interrupted, though his voice lacked conviction. "Temporary?" Melthera's voice rose. "General, it has been 7 months. How much longer should we wait? How many more must die while we learn to do what humans already knew how to do?" She turned to face Dae-ho. "Commander Kim, the Council formally apologizes for its treatment of humanity. We were wrong. We let fear and jealousy cloud our judgment. We ask you to return and help us save what is left of our civilization." Dae-ho looked around the chamber. Many of the aliens who had voted to expel humanity were gone, replaced by newer faces who had seen the consequences of that decision. But some of the old guard remained, including Velthak and Morden. "Thank you for your apology, Counselor Melthera," Deho said calmly. "It means a great deal to hear those words. But an apology is not enough." The chamber became very quiet. "Humanity is willing to return to the galactic community," Deho continued, "but not under the old system. That system failed. It allowed fear to override wisdom. It let pride destroy cooperation. We will not return to a system that could drive us away again." "What do you want?" Velthak asked, his voice barely a whisper. Deho activated a holographic display that showed the proposed changes to the Galactic Charter. First, no member species can be expelled or sanctioned without unanimous consent from all other members. Fear of one species should never again drive policy. Second, all species have the right to maintain their own military forces without interference. Strength should be seen as protection for all, not a threat to be controlled. Third, the sharing of technology and knowledge must be voluntary. No species can be forced to give up their advantages, but all are encouraged to help their neighbors. Fourth, the Council must have clear procedures for handling disputes. Personal pride and political ambition cannot be allowed to override justice and common sense. And fifth, Deho's voice became harder, any species that attempts to enslave, control, or eliminate another species will be immediately expelled and considered an enemy of galactic civilization. The chamber erupted in voices. Some aliens cheered, others argued, a few looked angry. Velthak stood up slowly. "These terms, they would fundamentally change the nature of the Council." "Yes," Deho said simply. "They would make it better. You are asking us to give up our authority over member species. I am asking you to treat member species as equals instead of subjects." Velthak's insect eyes narrowed. "And if we refuse these terms?" Deho's expression did not change. "Then you refuse them. Humanity will continue building our own confederation with the species that have chosen to join us. The galaxy is large enough for multiple governments. You would abandon us to die? You abandoned yourselves," Deho said sadly. "We offered friendship and cooperation. You demanded submission and control. We will not help you rebuild the same broken system that created this crisis." For a long moment the chamber was silent. Then a small voice spoke up from the back. It was a delegate from the crystal-like species of Crystallia Prime. "I have seen what humans can do," the delegate said. "They saved my world from the Red Plague 50 years ago. They asked for nothing in return. They just helped because help was needed." Another voice joined in, this one from an aquatic species. "Humans protected our trade routes for decades. They never asked for payment. They never demanded control of our government. They just kept us safe." More voices followed. One by one, aliens stood up to speak about how humans had helped them over the years. They talked about human doctors who had saved their children, human engineers who had built their cities, human soldiers who had died protecting alien worlds. Finally, Counselor Melthera called for a vote. "All in favor of accepting the human terms and reforming the Galactic Council?" Hands, tentacles, claws, and other appendages rose throughout the chamber. The count was overwhelming. 38 in favor, only 7 against. High Arbiter Velthak was one of the 7 who voted against. He stood up slowly, his political career ending before his eyes. "This council has lost its way," he said bitterly. "You are giving power to an alien species that will eventually dominate us all." "They already could dominate us," Melthera replied. "They chose to help us instead. That is the difference between humans and you, Velthak. They use their strength to protect others. You wanted to use your authority to control others." Velthak and his remaining supporters stormed out of the chamber. They would form their own small alliance, but it would never be important in galactic affairs. With the vote complete, Deho stepped forward. "The new Galactic Charter will take effect immediately. Humanity formally rejoins the galactic community as a senior member with full rights and protections." He paused and looked around the chamber. "But before we begin the work of rebuilding, there are beings who need help right now. Admiral Sujin Lee is already moving human medical ships toward the plague zones. Dr. Kehoe Beck is organizing treatment protocols for the Corellian fever. Engineer Taemin Song is leading repair teams to restore critical infrastructure." "You were prepared for this," Melthera said with surprise. "We hoped for this," Deho corrected. "We never wanted to abandon our friends. We just refused to be treated as enemies. Over the following months, human ships spread across the galaxy once again, but this time they were not alone. The Zalani Republic returned to Council space, bringing with them new ideas about cooperation and shared governance. The Bixnari Collective came back with stories of human kindness during their exile. Even some of the species that had left with Velthak eventually asked to rejoin. Dr. Kiho Bayek worked around the clock to train alien doctors in advanced medical techniques. This time, instead of just providing treatments, humans made sure their alien colleagues understood the science behind them. Engineer Taemin Song did not just fix the failing infrastructure. He taught alien engineers how to maintain and improve the systems themselves. Knowledge was shared freely, making the galaxy stronger. Admiral Su-Jin Lee worked with alien fleet commanders to develop new tactics for fighting the Void Stalkers and other threats. Instead of humans doing all the fighting, the galaxy learned to defend itself. Captain Bo Ram Yoon, who had been quietly reassigned instead of court-martialed for helping refugees, was promoted to Commodore and put in charge of humanitarian operations. Her first act was to establish refugee assistance protocols that would help anyone fleeing disaster, regardless of their species or politics. President Mi Young-shin addressed the reformed Galactic Council 6 months later. The chamber was packed with representatives from over 60 species, more than had ever been members at one time. "The galaxy is stronger today than it was a year ago," she said. "Not because humans returned, but because we all learned something important. Strength shared is strength multiplied. Fear shared is fear conquered. When we work together as equals, there is no